At 11 p.m., my apartment was quiet enough to hear the cursor blink. Lauren chose that silence to tell me she'd been sleeping with her boss, like she was placing a crown on her own head. The dining table was Italian marble. The chairs cost more than my first car. The view out the windows was all glass and city lights. Money pretending to be peace. I had my laptop open and a client's name in the subject line. High stakes, time sensitive, the kind of email that doesn't care about your marriage. I was halfway through tightening the language when Lauren's heels clicked past me for the third time, slow and uneven like she was pacing a ring. She'd been drinking since dinner. Not messy drunk, strategic drunk. The kind where you use the buzz like a permission slip. "You're always on that thing," she said. I didn't look up. "I'm finishing something." She laughed, sharp. "Finishing something. That's your whole personality." I kept typing. The keys sounded calm, even like rain. She leaned on the counter behind me, then pushed off and came closer. Her perfume carried alcohol underneath it. When she spoke again, her voice had that lazy cruelty like she'd already decided I was the enemy and she was just choosing the weapon. "You know what's funny?" she said. "I used to think you were ambitious." I paused, not because it hurt, but because I recognized the cadence. This wasn't a fight. This was a performance. She wasn't trying to be understood. She was trying to leave a mark. "Lauren," I said, still looking at the screen. "Not tonight." "That's what you always say," she snapped. "Not tonight. Not now. After this case. After this deadline. After you prove you're what? Worth something?" I turned my head enough to see her. Her eyes were bright, and not from tears. From the satisfaction of finally saying what she'd been rehearsing. "You want to know why I'm not impressed anymore?" she asked. I waited. Silence is a tool when you know how to hold it. She stepped forward and planted herself between me and the laptop, blocking the screen like she owned the air in front of me. Her smile was small and mean. "I've been sleeping with Evan Carlisle," she said. The name landed flat like a coin on stone. Her shoulders lifted like she expected thunder. Like she expected me to explode and beg. She held my gaze and delivered the next part like she was closing an argument in court. "He's a senior partner," she said. "He's everything you're not. He sees me. He doesn't hide behind emails." I watched her mouth move. I watched her enjoy it. "And before you start," she added, "don't do the wounded husband thing. It's not attractive. This is just reality. You weren't enough." She said it like a verdict. The cursor blinked behind her. Patient. Unbothered. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't stand up. I just looked at her for a long second, letting her realize she'd thrown a grenade into a room where the man wasn't flinching. "You done?" I asked. Her smile twitched, confused, almost offended. "No," she said, leaning in, trying to push it deeper. "I'm just getting started." Lauren waited for me to swell up, for the voice to crack, for the begging. She timed it like a lawyer times a question. Late enough that you're tired, quiet enough that you're isolated, sharp enough that you react instead of thinking. When I didn't give her anything, she frowned like the script had changed. "Say something," she demanded. I turned my eyes back to the laptop. "I am." "What, typing?" She scoffed. "That's your big response to your wife sleeping with Evan Carlisle?" I kept my posture the same. Shoulders loose, hands steady. The point wasn't to look strong. The point was to be accurate. For 2 weeks, I'd been collecting accuracy. It started with a hotel receipt in her coat pocket, creased like it had been stuffed away fast. Wrong name on the room. Same brand of place Evan used when his firm hosted out-of-towners. At first I thought it was a mistake. Then I thought about how mistakes always show up in patterns. So I watched patterns. I didn't hack anything. I didn't play spy. I did what lawyers do when they smell smoke. I documented what was already falling out of her life. Screenshots she forgot synced to the shared iPad. Calendar invites she didn't delete. Venmo notes that tried to be cute. Transfer records that didn't match her paycheck timing. A consulting bonus that came from an entity tied to Evan's family office, filtered through a shell that looked clean until you pulled the filings. And the messages, nothing graphic, just worse. Power, promises, pressure dressed up as mentorship. Lauren called it an affair that made it romantic. It reads like leverage. She leaned onto the table, eyes narrowed, trying to pull emotion out of me like a confession. You're seriously just going to sit there? I clicked into the draft I'd been writing before she decided to make her announcement. The subject line wasn't a plea. It wasn't even personal. It was procedural. Formal ethics complaint, Carlisle/Whitaker. The body was plain, organized, brutal in its calm. Timeline, attachments, financial transfers, relevant policy excerpts, witness notes, screenshots with dates and metadata. Every claim backed. Every assumption labeled as assumption. No insults. No threats. No, he ruined my marriage. Just here are the facts. Here is the rule. Here is the breach. Lauren's voice rose behind me. Look at me. Stop acting like you're above this. I added the last recipients. Not just HR. Managing partner. General counsel. Firm leadership. And the state bar's ethics intake channel. Because men like Evan don't fear angry husbands. They fear paper trails that don't blink. My finger hovered over send. Lauren laughed once like she was still winning. You won't do anything. You don't have it in you. I hit the key. The email left like a door closing, quiet, final, irreversible. Then I saved a copy to my own records, locked it down, and looked up at her for the first time like she was just another problem I'd already started solving. You wanted a reaction, I said. You got one. Morning didn't fix anything. It just took the alcohol off her breath and left the choices standing there naked. Sunlight pushed through the glass like it had somewhere better to be. I was already up, showered, dressed, coffee untouched. The apartment felt clean in a way it hadn't in months. Like the air finally stopped pretending. Lauren came out of the bedroom in one of my shirts, hair wrecked, face pale. Her eyes did that slow scan people do when they're trying to remember how bad they were. She leaned on the counter, blinking. Last night, she started. I didn't help her. I didn't fill in the blanks. I just watched her walk toward the truth like it might be negotiable. I shouldn't have said it like that, she added. I was drunk. Her voice was smaller, softer. No remorse. Tria. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Then buzzed again. Then again. She picked it up, squinted at the screen, and her face shifted, just a flicker at first. A hairline fracture. Why is Evan calling me at? She stopped, answered, put it to her ear. I didn't hear his words. I didn't need to. I watched her eyes go wide, watched her mouth part like a door caught in the wind. What do you mean don't pick up? She whispered. What happened? Her gaze snapped to me like I'd stepped into frame. She turned her back to the room, lowering her voice. Evan, calm down. What are you talking about? HR isn't. Then she went quiet, listening. The color drained out of her face in a steady pull, like somebody was unplugging her. She ended the call and just stood there, phone in her hand, breathing like the apartment had gotten smaller. What did you do? She asked. I took a sip of coffee that had gone lukewarm. I sent an email. Her lips tightened. To who? To the people who can't pretend they didn't know. She stepped toward me, slow, like approaching a dog that might bite. You reported him? I filed a complaint, I said, with evidence. Her expression snapped from confused to furious, panic wearing anger like a mask. You had no right. I didn't need your permission. She started pacing, fast now. How did you even get that? Did you go through my phone? I didn't move. You left things behind. You synced devices. You used shared accounts. You got careless because you thought I was too busy to notice. Her eyes darted around the room like the walls might offer a loophole. This is insane. You're trying to ruin me. I let that hang for a second. No, I said, calm enough to make it sting. I'm letting you own what you did. She swallowed hard, and it was the first time I saw it. Fear, real fear, not the dramatic kind she performed at parties. The kind that comes when you realize there's a machine already turning, and it doesn't stop because you're sorry. My firm, she whispered. Evans Connections. That's exactly why this matters. I said. Policies exist for men like him, and for people who think sleeping up the ladder comes without a fall. Her phone lit up again. Unknown number. Then another. And another. She didn't answer. She just stared at the screen like it was accusing her. Then she looked at me, voice shaking in spite of herself. You actually did it, she said. I nodded once. While you were slamming doors and calling me not enough. The smugness she'd worn the night before was gone. In its place was a woman trying to figure out how to outrun something already emailed, already logged, already forwarded. And she couldn't. Lauren tried to rebuild her old posture the way people pull on a coat in the cold. Fast, desperate, pretending it still fits. You're enjoying this, she said, like she could shame me back into softness. You always wanted to punish me. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The truth had its own weight. I was just letting it sit on the table. She circled the kitchen island, searching for an angle. You think you're some hero because you sent an email? You're still you. She gestured at me like I was a small thing she could name. A tired associate who thinks he's important because he works late. There it was. The old script. The one she used when she wanted to feel taller. Small. Broke. Behind. She clung to it because it was the last story where she stayed powerful. My phone buzzed. One notification. A subject line. The kind of message that changes a man's week. I didn't react right away. I let it sit there. Let her keep talking, digging, committing to the lie that I was beneath her. And don't act like money matters, she continued, voice rising. You can't compete with Evan. His world is different. He's not. I reached for my phone without urgency, opened the email, and pulled the attached PDF. Then I walked to the dining table and set the paper down like a chess piece. Lauren's eyes followed it. What is that? A letter, I said. She scoffed, but her hand still moved, because curiosity beats pride every time. She snatched it up, skimmed the top, then reread it slower when her brain tripped over the words. Her mouth opened slightly. I watched her process it in stages. Disbelief, then recalculation, then the thin panic that shows up when the ladder you've been climbing turns out to be leaning against the wrong wall. Junior partner. Effective date. Compensation package. The firm's signature at the bottom, clean and final. She looked up at me like she was seeing a stranger. This is... When did? Last night, I said. It came in while you were warming up your little speech. Her fingers tightened on the page. Why didn't you tell me? Because you didn't ask. Because you didn't care. Because you were too busy trying to make me feel small enough that you could stand on me. I didn't say all that. I didn't have to. I was going to, I said, before you decided to be cruel. Lauren's eyes flicked around the apartment. The marble, the view, the expensive silence. Like she was suddenly unsure who it belonged to. The place had always been her proof. Her stage. Her status symbol. Now it looked different. Now it looked like something I'd built while she was busy measuring men by titles. Her voice softened again. Too fast. Okay, listen. We don't have to do this like enemies. We can talk. We can. I held her gaze steady. This is you talking, I said. This is you adjusting. She swallowed. You're really going through with the complaint. It's already through, I said. You can't unsend it. She stared at the letter again, like it might change if she hated it hard enough. And for the first time since I'd known her, Lauren Whitaker looked genuinely unsure of her footing. Not sad, not sorry, just afraid she'd misread the man she married, right up until the moment it cost her everything. The thing about a marriage dying is nobody hands you a dramatic soundtrack. You just start talking about time slots and keys and what belongs to who. Lauren sat on the edge of the sofa like the cushions were unstable. Her phone wouldn't stop lighting up. She kept flipping it over, then flipping it back like she could control the day by refusing to look at it. I need to call my mom, she said, voice thin. Do it, I said. She stared at me. You're not even going to ask me to stay? I gave her the same look I'd give a witness trying to redirect. No, her jaw tightened. So that's it? You're throwing me out over one mistake. It wasn't one, I said. And it wasn't a mistake. She stood, pacing again, trying to generate chaos because chaos was where she could breathe. You don't get to just decide I'm homeless. I didn't, I said. You did. I'm just scheduling it. I slid my phone across the table and turned the screen toward her. A text thread. A name. A time. Movers. 4 p.m. Her eyes narrowed. What is that? A deadline, I said. You'll be out by evening. She laughed, but it cracked halfway through. You can't. I already spoke to my attorney. I cut in. This morning. The process is clean. The building's aware. The locks get changed after you leave. She froze like she'd just heard a language she didn't speak. You called an attorney? I made a plan, I said, while you were trying to bait me into a meltdown. Her phone buzzed again. This time she answered without thinking. Hello. Her voice was careful, too careful. Yes, this is Lauren. I watched her face tighten as the person on the other end started talking. She didn't interrupt. She didn't argue. She just listened, eyes widening, breathing shallow. Today? She whispered. No, okay. She hung up and stared at the floor. HR, she said like the word tasted bad. They want me to come in. They said not to contact Evan. I nodded once. That's how this starts. She snapped her head up. You're acting like you're proud. I'm acting like I'm done, I said. Her eyes went wet, but the tears didn't move yet. They hovered, trying to decide if they were a weapon or a confession. I can fix this, she said. Please, we can talk. We can go to counseling. I'll stop, I said, flat. She flinched. I'm not arguing about love anymore, I told her. I'm arguing about logistics. You have until this evening. Pack what you need. Anything personal. Clothes. Work stuff. The rest gets handled through attorneys. Her voice rose again, desperate. You can't just remove me. We're married. And I can't just trust you, I replied. But here we are. She stepped toward me like proximity could change my mind. Where am I supposed to go? I'd already answered that question before she asked it. I slid another paper across the table. Printed hotel confirmation. 2 nights. Close enough to her office to keep her functional. Far enough from me to keep me sane. I booked you a room, I said. That's the last thing I'm doing for you. Her lips trembled. You're being cold. No, I said. I'm being clear. Her phone buzzed again. Another call, another consequence knocking. She looked at it, then at me, and her voice finally broke into something real. You're really doing this. I held her gaze steady as stone. By evening, I repeated. You can leave calmly, or you can be removed. But either way, I nodded toward the door, toward the life she'd stepped out of on purpose. You're leaving. The marble lobby of my firm always smelled like money and restraint. Polished stone, quiet shoes, people who could ruin your week with a sentence. I walked in carrying a private earthquake and wore the same face I wore in court. Neutral, unreadable, useful. Morning, the receptionist said. Too bright. Then she paused, smiled wider. And, congratulations. Word traveled fast in buildings like this. Promotions moved through hallways faster than grief. Thank you, I said and kept going. The elevator ride up was silent except for the soft hum and my own breathing. I watched the numbers climb and felt something settle inside me. Not relief, not happiness. Alignment, like my spine finally clicked into place. My new office was real, not the borrowed kind. Not the temporary space they give associates to keep them hopeful. This was a corner with glass, a view, and a door that shut. A man was waiting inside like he'd been there for an hour. Graham Lawson, senior partner. My mentor in the way old wolves choose someone younger to either sharpen or break. He didn't stand when I entered. He just looked at me, eyes measuring, then nodded once. Sit, he said. I sat. He slid a folder across the desk. Thick, clean tabs. The kind of folder that meant somebody had already decided this mattered. They got your email, he said. I didn't ask who. There was no point. Graham's mouth tightened. Almost approval, almost warning. You did it right. No emotion. No overreach. Pure documentation. Good, I said. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Now for the part you're not going to enjoy. I held my face still. Carlyle's firm is in damage control, he continued. They pulled him out this morning. Escorted. Quiet exit. Their general counsel's been on calls since dawn. I felt a small, cold satisfaction, then let it go. Satisfaction makes men careless. And Lauren? I asked. Graham watched me closely at her name. They're freezing her access. Internal review. She'll be told not to communicate with him, not to delete anything, and not to talk to anyone outside counsel. I nodded. Graham tapped the folder once. This will get spun. How? I asked. As vendetta, he said. Angry husband. Career sabotage. They'll try to smear your motive because they can't erase your evidence. I didn't blink. Let them. He studied me a moment longer. Then his voice softened into something almost human. You're not the first man to get cut open at home and bleed at work. Most of them make it everyone else's problem. I didn't, I said. No, Graham agreed. You didn't. You practiced disciplined lawyering under pressure. That landed heavier than praise. It was a label, a standard. He slid a second envelope across the desk. Firm letterhead. Crisp. The official version of what Lauren had just learned at my dining table. Junior partner, he said. Effective immediately. Welcome to the part of the job where people smile while they sharpen knives. I took the envelope, didn't open it. I already knew what was inside. Graham's tone turned clinical again. Stay sharp. Don't gloat. Don't speak about any of this casually. If anyone asks, you say the same thing every time. I reported misconduct through appropriate channels. Nothing else. I nodded. Understood. He stood then, finally, and held my gaze. One more thing, he said. What? If they come at you sideways, he said, you don't swing back. You let them run into your paperwork. I stood too steady. They already did, I said. Graham's mouth twitched into the closest thing he had to a smile. Good. Then he left me in my new office with a closed door, a city view, and the quiet understanding that the other side was already collapsing, because somebody finally put the truth in writing. It was just past noon when my phone rang from a blocked number. I let it ring twice, not because I was playing games, because I was choosing posture. Then I answered. Hello. A woman's voice came through, controlled and low. Is this? She paused, like saying my name cost something. Mr. Whitaker? Yes. Another pause. Breath steady. My name is Meredith Carlyle. I didn't move. I didn't sit down. I stood by the window and watched traffic crawl below like nothing important had happened. I'm Evan's wife, she added, as if the title explained the weight in her tone. It does, I said. She exhaled, slow. I'm not calling to scream at you. Okay. Her voice tightened around something sharp. Humiliation, maybe, or relief. I'm calling to thank you. That hit, not like a surprise, but like a door opening in a hallway you didn't know existed. I don't understand, I said. You don't have to, she replied. Just listen. I did. Evan has a pattern, she said, careful with the words. And he's been protected by money, reputation, and the right last name. Every time it surfaced, it got handled quietly. HR settlements. Departures framed as career transitions. Women paid to disappear. I said nothing. Meredith kept going, voice steady but stripped of softness. Your report is the first one I've seen that's clean enough to stand on its own. Not rumors, not feelings, evidence, timing, transfers, policy violations. I felt my jaw tighten, not from anger, recognition. That same cold understanding I'd had reading Lauren's messages. This wasn't romance. It was machinery. They can't protect him this time, she said. Not with what you sent. I stared out at the city and let her words settle into the part of me that needed facts, not comfort. What happened to Lauren? I asked. Meredith didn't hesitate. They'll try to bury it. They'll offer her a settlement and an NDA. Quiet money. A chance to leave without a public hearing. And Evan, a slight pause. He'll fight, she said, but they'll cut him loose. The firm can't keep him without owning the liability. His license is exposed now. The bar doesn't care about his last name the way partners do. I leaned a shoulder against the glass. Why are you telling me this? Her voice dropped. Because I'm tired of watching him do it and still come home like he's untouchable. There was a hard dignity in that sentence. Not pain on display, control regained. I'm sorry, I said. And it was the only thing that fit without turning into empty talk. I'm not asking for sympathy, Meredith replied. I'm acknowledging reality. Your email forced the spotlight. It didn't just hit my husband. It hit the people who kept pretending they couldn't see him. I heard something shift in her breathing, like she was deciding how much truth to let out. If you get contacted, she added, don't respond emotionally. Let counsel speak. They'll try to label you unstable. They'll try to turn this into a jealous man's story because it's easier than senior partner abuses power. I know, I said. Meredith's voice softened by a degree. Not kindness, just less steel. Then you did the right thing. We stayed on the line for a beat, two strangers connected by one man's corruption and two lives he tried to treat like accessories. Thank you for calling, I said. Thank you for writing it down, she answered. Then the line went dead. I stood there for a moment longer, phone still at my ear, and let the strange truth settle. This wasn't just revenge. It was exposure. The movers arrived at 4 on the dot. Two guys in black tees, tape guns on their hips, faces neutral like they'd seen every version of human failure and learned not to judge it. Lauren stood in the living room with her arms crossed, trying to look insulted instead of cornered. Her eyes were red, but her chin stayed high. Pride was the last thing she had that still felt like control. This is insane, she said as the first box got labeled. You're acting like I murdered someone. You didn't, I replied. You just tried to kill the marriage and laugh while it bled. She flinched like she didn't expect poetry from me. I wasn't trying to be poetic. I was naming it accurately. One mover asked, Ma'am, bedroom first? Lauren stared at me like she wanted me to intervene, like I was supposed to protect her from the consequences she'd earned. Bedroom, I said. They moved past her. Lauren lowered her voice. It didn't start like you think. I didn't even look up from the folder in my hand. Divorce intake documents, asset list, timeline, boring paperwork that decides the rest of your year. Then tell me how it started, I said. Her mouth opened, closed. She tried again. It was after the retreat. He was supportive. I was stressed. You were never around. You mean you were already comfortable lying, I said. And he noticed. Her eyes flashed. You don't know what it was like in that firm. Evan had influence. He offered me things. I finally looked at her. He offered you leverage. She swallowed. He cared about me. I gave her a long second to sit with that sentence. Then I pulled my phone out, tapped twice, and set it on the counter between us. Screen facing her. The timeline. Not mine. Hers. Pulled from what she didn't realize she'd backed up. Cloud messages. Calendar entries. A photo she took in a hotel mirror with his cufflinks visible at the edge of the frame. Cute, careless, damning. Her pupils tightened. Where did you get? You already asked that, I said. And I already answered. You left it behind. Her voice rose, sharp. This is stalking. This is evidence, I corrected. Stalking is what Evan does. Evidence is what gets him removed. She stared at the timeline like it was a wall closing in. That's not all real. It's all real, I said. And it's months longer than you're pretending. Her shoulders sagged for the first time, an actual collapse, not a performance. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did, I said. Behind us, tape ripped, boxes sealed. The sound of my life being separated into labeled pieces. Lauren's voice softened into bargaining. We can still fix this. I can quit. We can move. We can start over. No, I said, calm enough to be cruel without trying. You don't start over with someone who chose to hurt you on purpose. Her eyes glistened. I was drunk. You were honest, I said. That's the difference. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. Then she tried one more lie, quieter this time. Evan said he loved me. That's when I stepped closer. Not aggressive, just close enough that she had to hear me without room to twist it. Evan loved access, I said. He loved a younger associate who'd say yes and keep his secrets. He loved the part where he could pay you and call it an opportunity. Her face tightened. You don't know him. I know exactly who he is, I said. And now your firm knows him too. I pulled out one more envelope, already printed, already arranged. Settlement framework. NDA. Not mine, hers. Likely coming from her firm's counsel within days. Meredith had been right. They'd want to bury it. I set it on the counter beside the hotel confirmation and the divorce papers. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Your firm will offer you quiet money so you don't talk. You'll sign it because you need the exit. Then you'll sign these because I'm not staying married to someone who thought humiliating me was a power move. Lauren's breathing turned uneven. So that's it. You're forcing me into a corner. I'm giving you a clean ending, I said. Corners are what you earn when you run out of truth. A mover walked in with a wardrobe box. Ma'am, shoes and handbags? Lauren's eyes flicked to him, then back to me. Where am I supposed to go after the hotel? Wherever you want, I said. Just not here. Her face twisted, and for a second I thought she might swing back into rage. But rage requires confidence, and hers was gone. She looked down at the papers like they were a sentence. I never thought you'd do this, she whispered. I held her gaze steady. That's because you never really looked at me. And then I stepped aside as the movers kept packing, because the last conversation wasn't a fight. It was a closing statement. The apartment looked different without her in it. Not emptier, cleaner. Like the place had stopped performing. The marble was still marble, the view still expensive, but it didn't feel like a showroom anymore. Felt like mine. Quiet on purpose, not quiet from avoidance. The divorce finalized in late summer. No dramatic courtroom scene. Just signatures, filings, and a judge who'd seen 1,000 versions of the same story and didn't need mine to be special. Lauren took the settlement her firm offered. She signed the NDA. She relocated. A new city, a smaller job, the kind of fresh start that's really just distance from consequences. Evan didn't get handcuffs or headlines. Men like that rarely do. What he got was worse for his kind: removal, investigation, discipline hanging over his license like a blade you can't ignore. Doors that used to open on his name started closing quietly, one after another. Vindication didn't feel like fireworks. Felt quiet, then space, then options. I took the junior partnership and used it like leverage, not ego. Build relationships. Picked cases that mattered. Stopped saying yes to things that drained me just to prove I could survive them. At a conference in Chicago, I met Rachel Chin during a panel break. Smart, direct, no performative sweetness. We talked about work first, always a good sign. I didn't rush it. Separate routines. No instant promises. No pretending a new person can erase an old scar. A few months later, the firm offered me something I'd wanted before I even knew I wanted it. The chance to launch a new office across the country. Real authority. Real build. A new map. I took it. The night I decided. I stood in the living room with the city lit up behind the glass and felt something simple settle into my chest. Ownership. Not of the apartment. Of myself. Lauren texted once near the end of the year. Paragraph. Apology-shaped. Polite. Late. The kind of message people send when they want to believe they're not the villain in their own story. I read it once. Then I deleted it. Not out of spite. Not to win. Because I was done letting that chapter keep a key to my attention. I turned my phone face down, poured a drink I didn't need, and looked around the clean, quiet apartment. No staged perfection. No tension in the air. No woman searching for a new way to make me feel small. Just a man with a future that finally belonged to him.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.